Story 1. Lying about being pregnant twice. Using children from previous relationships as ammunition and guilt trips. Saying that I was being selfish when I was depressed over the loss of a family member. Telling coworkers I have a drug problem. Not true. Glad to be single now. Story 2. Dated a woman for 6 months. She constantly accused me of cheating. So one night I just said, "You know what? I think you are cheating." She threw her drink in my face. The level of disrespect and obvious lack of coping skills just ended it for me. Story 3. I had to cancel a date because my dad was in a lot of pain due to being terminally ill, and I wanted to be there for him. She got mad at me because, "You're always with your dad and never with me." He died that night. After I told her he died, she ignored me for a whole week. Afterwards, she told me she was sorry and that she had regrets. I've never accepted her apology and I'm still upset with her. It was 4 years ago. Story 4. I once had a girlfriend who said I ruined her New Year's Eve after my dad was rushed to the hospital on the morning of the 31st. It's safe to say I started the New Year single. Story 5. The obvious answer I know, but my view has and always will be, you cheat, I leave. Girlfriend of 4 years cheated on me when she went out drinking with her friends. I moved out the next day, blocked her, told her family what had happened. I didn't embellish, just the truth. I figured that would be more devastating than an emotional outburst, and then blocked them too. I moved on much faster than I thought. It was sad, but ignorance was bliss. I imagined her sad and depressed, regretting what she'd done, and because I'd blocked her, everything for all I knew it was true. Story 6. She slept with someone else on my birthday and lied, telling me she went to see a movie that wasn't out yet. I knew she was lying but didn't say anything. I found out because he messaged me and told me what happened. He had no idea she even had a boyfriend. Story 7. Cheating and silent treatment. I'm not talking about needing time to cool down. I'm talking about acting completely unreasonable by refusing to talk for days as some kind of psychological tactic. In either case, go forget about it. It's unforgivable. Story 8. Summary. She physically abused me by punching me in the groin in front of others. When I confronted her about it, she broke up with me. This led to emotional abuse for the next 3 to 4 months because we worked in the same unit. We were in our 3rd year of medical school when we started dating. We were acquaintances from the dissection lab before, and eventually we were in the same group for clinical teachings. What began as a friendship turned into a full-blown relationship. We were committed after about a year and were together for another 2 years when issues started to arise. Regarding the incident, we were at a rural community health center as interns with a few other colleagues. The caseload was low, and we rotated every 2 hours in pairs throughout the day to see patients. During our break, we worked on a PowerPoint presentation for a community research project we had completed. She was leading it and I was helping her out. She had a habit of hitting me before. While engrossed in it, I realized it was our time to attend to patients and repeatedly told her that we ought to go. She didn't listen, and when I kept insisting, she suddenly turned around and punched me in the groin. This happened in front of 2 other female colleagues in the room. Anyone who's been hit there knows how much it hurts, as it did to me. I left the room in embarrassment and went to attend to the patients. She joined me 3 minutes later. Later that day, I texted her after getting back home, mentioning that what she did was wrong and caused me pain. She apologized via text. The next day at the community health center, she said she wanted to talk and broke up with me, stating that I deserved someone better and she wasn't good enough. It was pretty obvious that this was her way of retaliating for me calling her out. This wasn't the first time she hit me in the groin. It happened before playfully, as she is somewhat childish in that sense. The trauma wasn't just from the physical act of hitting me but from the emotional abuse and mind games that followed. I hadn't done anything wrong, yet I was punished both by being hit and by the breakup of a long-standing relationship. We had spent a lot of time, effort, and built memories over 3 years, and for her to destroy it overnight completely broke me. For the next 3 months, I tried everything to win her back and even apologized myself. There was significant emotional abuse, victimizing, and gaslighting. She yelled at me a lot and made threats. I couldn't reach out to anyone because it was embarrassing. Story 9. I once had a girlfriend I walked in on using the bathroom. She was sitting backwards. I left her the next week. It still bothers me to think about 15 years later. Story 10. Popping drugs in my drink and sharing me with her housemates and a couple of friends, and some guy that she had apparently been involved with all along that just watched and directed. Story 11. My barber once told me that his girlfriend went off birth control and was trying to get pregnant without telling him. I'd say that's pretty high on the unforgivable list for me. Story 12. Cheating. If you fall for someone else and want them more than me, break up with me and start that new relationship. At least then we can be friends and I'll respect you. If you just cheat on me and I inevitably find out, I'll lose all respect for you and won't even want to have you in my life. Physical assault. I know better than to stay with someone who physically wants to hurt me. I've seen enough true crime documentaries to know a woman can be just as abusive and deadly as a man in these situations. Story 13. Lying. We all lie sometimes, but that's human. I mean, more specifically, lying to win an argument or gain in some other ways, the sort where the stakes are high and they go for the lie regardless. As an adult, if this behavior is exhibited on the fly, then it's part of their nature. It will never change because it's almost innate sociopathy. If you have a girlfriend like this, it's better to call it quits. Life's too short for such behavior. Story 14. Skipping the obvious like murder or assault, probably intentionally and maliciously injuring my animals. I'm not talking about a light smack when they go for something on the table or the cat getting underfoot at 1 a.m, but actual injury. I've ended friendships over this. I can't see how a romantic relationship is different. Story 15. I don't care how you dress or how you act, within reason of course, but cheating is unacceptable. I will not cheat. If I get the urge to, I'll end the relationship, and I have done so before. I expect the same level of respect. Story 16. My ex told her parents I hit her. I received a call from her parents saying they were going to call the police. My ex called me on the phone, drunk, saying that she didn't think her parents would call her bluff. She told them I hit her because they saw a bruise. The bruise was caused by her falling down because she was intoxicated and she didn't want to admit it. I wasn't even at the bar where she got drunk. Her parents called me later to apologize. I broke up with her the next day. Story 17. Stringing me along for years, telling me that she only very briefly a long time ago felt anything real for me. Ghosting me in favor of someone she later claimed abused her. Then coming back into my life trying to be my friend but pretending she's the only one hurt. Leave me alone. Story 18. From my last relationship. Yelling at me for having pornography and considering it as cheating, but expecting me to let things go back to normal after she admits to cheating on me with my roommate. Additionally, demanding I let her access my technology to examine my browsing history every time she comes over. Story 19. She took my son at 13 months and disappeared until I finally got the courts to respond. I hadn't seen him for 10 months before he was 2 years old. This is very recent. He turns 2 next month. And I have a temporary placement schedule set until we get a permanent court date. There is absolutely no excuse. My son and I will never get that time back. Story 20. Being a divorced father, I'd say the only thing I wouldn't be able to forgive is if she ever abused my daughters in any way, physical or mental. Other than that, with all the things I've put my ex-wife through and just being a general piece of a bad person my entire life, I can extend a lot of forgiveness and empathy just like others have extended to me, which I did not deserve at all. Story 21. I spent over 2 decades in the food service industry. Some things just stick with you, like cutting a sandwich diagonally so it takes up more space on the plate. So 7 years ago, while my fiancée was pregnant, she asked me to make her a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I cut it diagonally. She started screaming at me and threw the plate at my head. For the sake of my son, we co-parent, and she even comes along for family vacations and the like. But that action is always in the back of my mind. Story 22. She cheated on me very early on. I didn't really realize it at the time, but it broke me in a fundamental way, and I was then obsessed with keeping her as some sort of proof that I was worthwhile as a person. I thought I had forgiven her, but I hadn't. She did a lot of other things to make me feel worthless and dehumanized me, and I don't think I'm ever going to truly get over it. It's been a year and a half since it ended, and it's still almost as bad as it was back then. Story 23. Attempting world domination and failing. I would totally be cool with a successful run. A failed one, though, just shows a lack of effort. And, well, if she can't put real effort into world domination, then is she really trying in our relationship? Story 24. Cheating on me and letting me find out on my own is unacceptable. I have a rule. If you find someone else, tell me yourself. That alone shows a hint of respect. But letting me get blindsided shows no respect. All conversations at that point are null and void forever. Story 25. My wife cheated on me with someone I knew, who we used to hang out with at the bar for 5 months, letting me shake his hand and slap his back and say, "How are you doing, Fred?" every Wednesday, then asking me for a divorce and getting 50% of all our marital assets. Thank you to all you lawyers out there who got no-fault divorce laws passed. You assholes. Yeah, I'm a little bitter. Story 26. Boyfriend. But still. My dad passed last year and was sick a long time before that. I didn't get to see him too much because he was in and out of hospital and going here and there, and I don't have transport at my disposal. He had to take a short trip to Brighton, which is only about an hour from where I live, and he offered to pick me up so we could go together. Driving together was always a thing for us, for as long as I could remember, and because of his heart problems, he could basically drop whenever. He was a stubborn man, though. It didn't stop him from driving. Of course, I said yes, so I told my boyfriend, who was staying at my place at the time, that it wasn't a short trip and that I'd be back in under 2 hours. He was completely fine with it to begin with, and I told him he could help himself to food and use my PlayStation or do whatever to occupy himself. But about half an hour into the trip, he messaged me all mad about how I said he could come over only to go out without him and that I was selfish for it. Keep in mind, he was staying for a week. An entire week. I was gone under 2 hours. He literally sent a text saying, "No, I get it. You have someone better than me to hang out with." And that left me pretty dumbstruck. He ended up going home in the evening. It took me an embarrassingly long time to leave him, but after that and countless other horrible things he did, I managed to. It always kind of lingered in my brain, and I knew I couldn't just forgive or forget. Maybe what I did was selfish. I'm not too conscious about that stuff, so I'm not sure, but everyone else thought he was out of line, so I assume he was. Just realized how long this was. Probably could have been a paragraph. Sorry. Story 27. My ex-girlfriend of 6 years thought I was unfaithful with her sister, which I wasn't. Because of her paranoid delusion, she thought it fitting to betray me with my best friend and ruin my life. It's been 5 years, and she still asks for forgiveness, but that's unforgivable. I forgave him because he told me. She would have kept it a secret, but he had the decency to let me know who I was about to marry. I don't have much of a friendship with him anymore since we've had several conflicts since the incident, but he did care about me enough to stop me from marrying her, and I do forgive him, but not her. Story 28. Breaking up with me after I got laid off, going to a rave on our anniversary without me, then messaging me months later saying, "Life's too short. Get the bleep out." Story 29. While cheating seems to be the main focus here, mine is quite different. Granted, cheating would have been a deal breaker for sure, but I was thinking more along the lines of something she did that I tried to get past but just couldn't, and it was always in the back of my mind. Here's mine. We had only been together 4 months when this happened, but we ended up together for 7 years before it ended. This event always stuck with me and should have been a forewarning of who she really was. Every January, she would go on a week-long trip with her sister to Cancun. One of the problems with this trip was that she also had a dog, an awesome Great Dane, so someone needed to watch the dog while she was gone for that week. It just so happened that I love dogs, and this dog loved me too, so I volunteered to stay at her house and take care of the dog while she was gone. Bonus, she lived closer to my office, so it cut my commute to nothing. While she was out of town, I decided to fix a bunch of things around the house that were in dire need of repair. She'd get home from her trip, and all the little things that were broken would be fixed, and she'd see that I could keep her dog alive while she was gone. Things were going just as planned. I fixed all the broken items on day 1, and the dog and I hung out and had a great time. But on day 3, the dog didn't seem to be herself. She was moping around and didn't seem to be as energetic as she normally was. I spoke to my girlfriend every night and mentioned that the dog seemed off. But she said that was normal when she went away for extended periods of time and it was nothing to be worried about. By day 4, things had gotten worse. This dog wasn't mine, so I didn't know its characteristics, but I knew something wasn't right. She had a hard time walking up and down the stairs to go outside and didn't seem to be eating. I took some videos and sent them to my girlfriend so she could see exactly what I was worried about. I even offered to take her to the vet just to be sure. Her response was, "Yes, something's not right, but I don't want you to take her to the vet because she hasn't been to the vet since I got her, and if something is seriously wrong, I don't want you to have to deal with it." What? This is your dog. You don't want me to do anything I can to make sure it's not seriously ill? In hindsight, I should have just taken the dog to the emergency vet. But it wasn't my dog and it was a new relationship and I didn't want to rock the boat. By day 5, the dog could no longer stand up on its own. I was hand-feeding it and I would come home every day for lunch to check on her, feed her, give her water, etc. I could tell she was in pain. I put pillows under her head and blankets under her as best I could. She was a Great Dane, so it wasn't easy. I mentioned all of this to my girlfriend, and she just said that I should make her comfortable and she would deal with it when she got home. She couldn't get up, so she would just pee where she laid, and I would have to clean her up, slide her around, and just keep her as comfortable as possible. Every night, I had to go to sleep listening to this dog whimpering. I kept asking my girlfriend if I could just do something, and she insisted I didn't. When I went to pick my girlfriend up from the airport, along with her brother and sister, I told the dog to hold on as long as she could. I was getting Mom and I'd be right back. I raced to the airport, got them loaded into the car, dropped off her sister and raced back home. The dog was still alive. I thought for sure we'd do something now. Take her to the emergency vet or something. Nope. We went to bed. At some point early in the morning, my girlfriend got up and went downstairs. The dog died while she was with her. I woke up, knowing something wasn't right, and went downstairs too. We both had a cry. She called her ex, who had her daughter, and told her what happened and to bring her daughter by to say her goodbyes to the dog. Then we loaded the dog into the car and took her to the local humane society. As if that entire week wasn't tragic enough for me, what really stuck with me and I couldn't get over was the fact that her family and friend would joke about how the first time I stayed at the house and took care of her dog, the dog died. And she never defended me. She never told them that I wanted to take the dog to the vet. She never acknowledged that I nursed the dog the entire time and kept asking to take it to the vet, or that I had to sleep there every night and listen to the dog whimpering in pain while she was off in Cancun having a blast. I even brought this up to her multiple times and explained how I felt. She didn't seem to care. Even typing this brought tears to my eyes. Many years later, this event wasn't what ended everything for us, but it was part of the process and something I've never gotten over and she's never taken responsibility for.